Ooh, they're being noisy. It's rude. I'm trying to record. Welcome to my backyard. I thought I would do a review video while it's still fresh in my mind of the Palmetto Trail. All right, couple things. The Palmetto Trail is about 500 miles long, and it starts at Onondaga in the Intercoastal Waterway and goes through the entire state of South Carolina all the way up to Stump House Tunnel in Walhalla. The trail was established in 1994, I believe. It has 31 passages or completed portions of the trail that range from 1.5 miles all the way up to almost 50 miles. And they have almost 400 miles done. It goes through state and national parks, along trail, 2-track, backcountry road, horse trail, converted train track, and greenways through major cities. In this video, I wanted to go through some of the pros and cons, what I would do differently if I was to hike it again, and who I'd recommend it for. All right, let's get into some of the pros. The trail itself is beautiful. You're going through coastal waterways and black forest swamps and lakes and creeks and all kinds of beautiful places. And then you get up into the Blue Ridge Mountains. Oh, it was a joy to hike. Even some of the greenways and converted railroad tracks going through major cities were pretty gorgeous. Another huge pro is the diverse ecosystems that you're going through. Oh my gosh. I saw everything when I went on my hike. I saw dolphins, alligators, river otters, and a whole bunch of birds and snakes, and an endless supply of deer. Another pro is that it's unknown. A lot of these environments that you're going through are just untouched. I believe mostly it's just hunters that use it during the hunting season. Another pro for a lot of people is that it's flat. Flat as a pancake until you get up to the Blue Ridge. A lot of people like that. It makes for some easy hiking. Another great pro on this is that resupplies are very easy. Most of the time you're not going to have to go 2 to 3 days in most passages without hitting a Dollar General or some kind of a town. Water is so abundant. You don't have to carry that much water. So those are the pros. Now to get into some of the cons. It's flat. That's not for everybody. It's definitely not for me. It's very easy hiking. Most of the state of South Carolina is flat until you get into the upstate. Another con is it's unknown. You know, when I was in town, I was talking to a lot of people and they had no idea that the trail was even there and that there was a trail that ran through their state. You're not going to get that trail magic or that trail support like you get on other thru hikes. Another con would be the ticks and mosquitoes. Oh, they are horrendous. They were just crawling up my legs constantly. You know, truth be told, it's just mostly in the coast. An easy way to deal with that is just to spray your clothes with permethrin. Lots of poison ivy, tons of poison ivy all over that trail. It's almost impossible to walk on this trail without walking through poison ivy. Luckily, I don't have a bad reaction to it, but I definitely got little blisters on my ankles and whatnot. There's also stinging nettle that I noticed more towards the Blue Ridge. Another con would be that some of the passages aren't really designed that well. An example of that is walking through Fort Jackson. When I hiked through there, I didn't make it out in time, and it's about a 5-mile stretch that's inside the base. I ended up having to hop the fence because I just really didn't have another choice. And that just doesn't work for thru hiking. Also, there's other parts of the trail that just don't make a lot of sense. There's this one called Lynch's Woods that the trail heads to Newberry up a street, cuts over, does a loop in Lynch's Woods, and then cuts back to the same exact spot that you left, and then continues up. So there's no progressive trail miles, and therefore it serves no purpose in a thru hike. I think that they also have a couple battlefields, if I'm not mistaken, that are not on the trail specifically, but they're around it that I guess you would drive to go hike them. I'm not sure. Not something that I did anyway. A lot of those sections did feel like they were quota miles, as in someone was required to have a certain amount of miles that were added to the trail officially. So they just kind of brought it around to a different section that would accommodate that. It didn't really feel like it was a methodical plan to bring the trail out of its way when there isn't really a purpose to hike it. All right, so for some of the bigger cons, road walking, there's a lot of it. The passages aren't really linked with a direct path, so you kind of have to make it up as you go along. So you hike this little passage, and then you look at what roads can get you to this little passage, and you kind of link them all together in a chain. And talking with the Palmetto Trail Conservancy, a lot of that has to do with property agreements and easements and what they're able to actually put their name on as far as a dedicated path. But it makes for a more difficult through hike for sure, logistically. On top of that, you're going to have the issue of camping on private property. It is unavoidable. We call that stealth camping. You're walking down a road, you got forest on this side and this side, and you have houses that are probably down the way or behind you. And so you're just kind of looking both directions, making sure that no cars are coming, and then you're bailing out into one of those woods and hoping that nobody finds you out there. It's not an effective way to do any kind of through hike, and it's hard to even advise anyone else to do it for the simple fact that you are trespassing on property in order to do this. Even a lot of the passages have no camping permitted on the maps themselves. It makes it really, really difficult as a through hiker to do a footstep to footstep through hike when there's not really anywhere to camp. So I think all in all, the big issue is that it's not a completed trail. It's a trail concept. It's to be understood as a trail concept. And so we shouldn't get held up on walking that line completely the way that it's been shown on a map. It's just needing more support. And I think the bigger issue here is that the culture in South Carolina doesn't really support a long distance backpacking trail. It is a multi-use trail, areas you can horseback ride and bike ride, but as far as a walking path from the coast all the way to the mountains, it's culturally not something that people do here. The South likes to hunt and fish and boat and car camp, a half dozen other things that are outdoors, but that's what the culture supports. So how would I hike it differently? Well, for one, I'd start earlier. I probably would have started early April just to avoid the bugs in the South, and I would have sprayed my clothes. The permethrin really works well, keeps the mosquitoes from biting through your clothes, and I would have coated my legs in bug spray. Another thing I would do differently is carry less food. There's towns all over the place, and it's easy to predict, am I going to be here in 3 or 4 days? If you're doing 15 to 20 miles a day, you should be within range easily. I also would have carried less water. There was water everywhere I turned. There might have been small sections that had a little bit of a dry spurt, but there wasn't that many of them. I also would have cut my own route. I would have cut right through Croft State Park, and I wouldn't do any of that extra out of the way stuff. One thing that I did do that I do recommend for people to do, skip the last section of the Palmetto Trail. I ended up connecting the Palmetto Trail at Sassafras Mountain with the Foothills Trail and continued on. The only reason that the Palmetto Trail doesn't use the Foothills Trail is because the Foothills Trail does go into North Carolina. But after hiking the Palmetto Trail, there's a passage that actually creeps into North Carolina. So the trail itself already goes into North Carolina, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't just choose the Foothills Trail. The Palmetto Trail actually goes from Sassafras Mountain down the Foothills Trail to Table Rock, and then it hits some trail and a lot of highway all the way to Stump House Tunnel, and that just sounds awful. The Foothills Trail is gorgeous. It's scenic trail, it's established, and it's a much better route to do than highway walking. Well, do I recommend it? I would probably have to say yes-ish. My halfway answer, I know. The truth is the Palmetto Trail has the potential to be a really great trail, but it's not a completed trail yet. For those who have not done a long distance through hike, I don't recommend it as a first time footstep to footstep through. I definitely recommend it as a section hike and something that you can alter and jump around and hit the most beautiful sections of. No reason to do the road walks, and no reason to do every single passage either. For those of you who have had some through hiking experience and you want to give it a shot, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, unique experience. I had my challenges, but I saw so much and I enjoyed the heck out of it. Well, it's been nice to be on this little mini vacay from my hike, but I am going to be continuing back and hiking the Bartram Trail and then connecting that with the Appalachian Trail and continuing up through the Mountains to Sea Trail. So stay tuned for those. Well, that's all I've got for today. Just wanted to get that review out there. I'm Scallywag, your favorite vagabond, staying trashy but keeping it classy. And I'll see you on the next trail.